It's spooky season and it's time for some DIY decorative candles. I have 4 super simple candle designs to try that need only a few materials to make. Quick disclaimer before I start, these candles are made for decoration only. 3 out of the 4 designs I wouldn't recommend lighting, due to risk of fire or harmful fumes from the paint. So please keep that in mind if you make any of these yourself. With that said, let's get started. The first candle design, I'm going to use these pillar candles. They can be any size you like, but having a nice big surface area to work with works best. I then also need some spooky napkins. I bought these last year from Tesco, but I'm sure there's lots available this year too. I cut out a section from the napkin that was big enough to cover the candle, then trimmed to fit nicely, with only a small overlap at the join, and as close as I could to the correct height. For the other candle in this design, I cut out individual images from the white section of the napkin. As my candle is also white, these should blend in nicely, so I don't need to worry too much about the shape I'm cutting out. If the background of your napkin doesn't match the colour of your candle, you can still do this design, but take some more time to make sure the shapes look how you want them to. With everything cut out, peel away the very top layer of the napkin, so you're left with just the printed design. This should be very thin, so be careful not to tear any of the paper. Then time to put it together. To start, I laid out some non-stick paper, just in case we get a little messy. Then got my hairdryer. Position the paper where you want on the candle, then using a low setting, start to melt the wax to hold and seal the paper into place. This will take a few minutes to heat the wax, but I make sure to use the lower setting to make sure the paper doesn't fly away and I don't burn my fingers. Once the candle starts to melt, I like to smooth the wax over the paper to really seal it in. I roll it over the non-stick paper too to make sure that there's no lumps or bumps. For the individual images, I started by heating the wax first, so I didn't have to hold the small bits of paper under the hairdryer and burn my fingers. Once the wax had melted enough, smooth the images onto the candle. You can see now the white background of the napkin blends into the candle nicely. After positioning and sealing all the images, these candles are finished. Put them to one side to let the wax completely harden again, and we'll move on to candle design number 2. This one using the pillar candles again, but this time we're melting on coloured crayons. I chose black and red crayons. Take off the paper and using the hairdryer again, melt drips of the candle wax down the candle. Make sure to hold the hairdryer directly down the crayon, so the drips drip downwards. Added drips all the way around the candle, then accidentally touched the top of the wick, but actually liked how this looked, so I coloured the top of the wick with the crayon too. I repeated this with the red crayon, but if you want a more cartoony or spooky vibe, I think purple and green would actually look really cool too. Now onto the last 2 candle designs. For these I use long taper candles. And I had these smaller candles that are actually Christmas tree candles, but I wanted to test these out too. Heat some water to almost boiling, but not too hot, warm enough that you can still touch the water for a few seconds without it getting too hot. Put the water into a long dish and place in the candles. Leave the candles to warm for a few minutes. I kept topping up the warm water and moving the candles around so they didn't stick together. After a few minutes, test your candles by gently trying to bend them. These smaller candles I just couldn't bend, but the larger ones were ready to shape. For the first few candles, I bent them into squiggly lines, and even managed to bend a candle fully around on itself to make a loop. Try any shape you like, making sure to go slowly and not press too hard to keep the candle in one piece. For the last candle design, I twisted 2 candles together to make a double spiral. These smaller candles just wouldn't bend, even after a long time soaking. I think it was the type of wax the candles were made from. Just wasn't made for this kind of craft. So paraffin wax candles seem to work well, but you may want to test the type of candles you have before trying any complicated shapes. I did an extra candle to make up for the failed small candles, and ended up with these 3 squiggle candles and the spiral candle. Now to decorate. The third candle design in this set, I used some black acrylic paint and a small paintbrush to paint on 2 eyes and a big open mouth to create 3 haunting ghosts. For the final candle design, I wanted 1 white candle and 1 black candle. I could have used a black candle to start with, but I only had white, and I think it actually turned out better painting one of the candles black, as the details I add next work best with a contrasting colour underneath the candle's top layer. So I painted one of the candles completely black. After the paint had dried, I then took a toothpick to scratch out a small cobweb design, scratching through the black paint to the white underneath. Using a dry paintbrush to brush away any of the excess wax when needed. After adding all my cobwebs along the black candle, I then used the same black acrylic paint to paint on little spiders all the way along the white candle. After all this had dried, all 4 of my candle designs were ready for their spooky reveal. The napkin candles look great, and a perfect way to add a lot more detail without any harder work on your end. I've used this technique for Christmas candles before too, and it's basically a very cheap and easy way to make decorations for every season and theme you can find a napkin to match with. The drip candles look great, and these are the candles you can actually light, so long as you use non-toxic crayons. So they would look amazing in a candle-lit display. I love the black one too, looks very witchy. The ghost candles are so much fun, and there are endless shapes and squiggles you can make. Maybe try with different ghost faces too. They were so easy to make, and you could have a whole ghost army in time for Halloween. And finally, this is probably my favourite design. The twisted together candles look so cool and impressive, but we all know the secret of how easy these were to make too. You could do so many different designs in any colour you like. I think I'm going to have to make some more of these now too. Let me know if you make any of these designs. Tag us on our Instagram or our TikTok. I would love to see what you come up with. And make sure to give this video a like if you want to see some more easy seasonal DIYs.